feel love, and I ain't got no
I got the fire flow. Shorty getting down, going up the fire pole. Radical in the mitten where we mad co. I got the roll.
Welcome to someone's favorite movie podcast. I'm coming to you from the Podjack outside beautiful Flint, Michigan, USA. My name is Randy. With me is the one and only, your favorite person, Tom Co.
Oh, man, I don't think I'm even my wife's favorite person. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're an idol of millions right now. I don't know if you know this about your lot in life at this second.
Do I get royalties on this shit?
Oh, no. This is all going in my pocketbook. I'm sorry. You never signed the contract that I sent
God
you.
Damn it.
I faxed it to your agent. I don't know what he's doing, but you might want to look into better representation. I don't know what
me again.
Well, there's slimy sorts. You got to have people nearby in your inner circle that you trust. I don't know. I guess you learned the lesson. But this is someone's favorite movie podcast. We look at all the cinematic treasures that, I don't know, you've kind of cast aside. If you have a favorite movie that you want us to cover, email us at someone'sfavoritemoviepodcast@gmail.com, because I would love for this show to be full of listener recommendations.
Oh, I just know we're going to end up covering that Cat in the Hat movie now, sir.
Oh, well, if that's your favorite movie, the Cat in the Hat movie starring Mike Myers, never watch any other movies again, because you are the worst person. you just, there are some limits. That's just a bad movie. That's not even a fun bad movie. That's not even a what the fuck is this bad movie. That's
one of those punch the TV movies.
Yeah, there's no redeeming qualities to it. And I know because I've actually seen it.
I got dragged to the theater for that one.
Guess what? I did too.
Was it the one down the road from me where thank God they have booze?
Yeah, we were we were probably in the same theater at the same time watching the same shitty movie and both groaning loudly. We're one of the few people in America to probably see that in the theater, so we're
probably the only two that would admit to seeing it in the theater.
This is true. But this is someone's favorite movie podcast, and we thank you for listening. We're slowly building up a listenership, and that's great. If you love what you hear, tell more people to listen, huh?
Absolutely.
All the movie freaks in your life, be like, hey, get a load of this in your ear holes, huh? Today we're covering a very awesome movie. It's called Tammy and the T-Rex. Tammy and the T-Rex, yes.
I have to admit, I had never heard of this movie until you suggested it. I think I did myself a favor where I went into it completely blind. I just knew the title, and then I saw the cast, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yes. That's a perfect reaction to this movie. It's one of those movies where the title says it all. Tammy and the T-Rex. There's Tammy, and then there's a T-Rex. What more could you want?
You know what I kind of was reminded of when I was watching this movie? Did you ever see that fourth Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Texas Chainsaw, The Next Generation?
No, but I want to desperately. With Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger?
Yes, That's what this movie reminded me of, except it was even less competently made.
Yeah, I guess.
And I'm not saying that in a bad way, by the way. This movie's faults are its virtue.
Exactly. This is a fun, bad movie to watch. This is the opposite of The Cat in the Hat, I feel like. I went into this movie having heard of it, knowing it's very hard to find, also knowing that it's coming out later this month in a Gore edition on restored 4K Blu-ray.
Oh my God! Seriously?
Yes, Gore edition on Black Friday for $36. Yes, it's
$36?
Yes, that's right. It's actually been making the rounds in theaters, this Gore cut, because apparently 10 minutes of the movie was cut with all this blood and gore, and it's been restored to give it an R rating again. So there you go. You could watch all this with extra blood and guts.
$10. I would pay $10 for this movie.
I would totally pay $10 for this movie in a heartbeat. I would. $35 is a bit steep for me at this moment in time. Like, I love it, but I don't love it that much. I think the price I put on this movie is less than $35. Some things you can't put.
That would be fair.
Yes.
$10.
Yeah, some things you can't put a value on. Tammy and the T-Rex, $10 definitely is appropriate.
Wow, this was a ride, sir.
It is a ride, and I went into it, like I said, only knowing the name, the basic plot, and I was very pleasantly surprised by it. I expected the absolute worst, and don't get me wrong, it's bad, but it's fun bad, I think.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to figure out is it one of those movies that intentionally wants the audience to laugh at it, or did they actually try?
He didn't actually try. So I did do some research here, and Stuart Raffle, who also directed The Ice Pirates and Paul Rudd's favorite movie, Mac and Me. If you ever see Paul Rudd on Conan O'Brien, he brings the clip of Mac and Me on there all the time. He was interviewed about coming up with the concept for Tammy and the T-Rex. He flat out asked, how did you come up with...
Was mescaline involved?
No, believe it or not. He came up with the idea. A guy came up to him who owned theaters in South America, and he said, I have a T-Rex. It was animatronic and was going to a park in Texas. The eyes worked, the arms moved, the head moved. He had it for 2 weeks before it was going to be shipped to Texas, and he came to me and said, we can make a movie with it. I said, what's the story? And he said, I don't have a story, but we have to start filming within the month. And so I wrote the story in a week. And it shows. And that's how he came up with. I love it though. It's kind of like those journals you see in bookstores, those writer's prompt journals. It's like you went to the coffee shop and then write the story. It's kind of like that, but in real life and with money involved. And it actually was seen by, I don't know, some people allegedly somewhere in some theaters. I think that's kind of cute.
Did this actually get a theatrical release?
I believe so, yeah. I'm sure it wasn't a very widespread release. It's only been released on VHS, which is why the quality of the one you saw was very...
Looked like an old VHS, yeah.
Exactly. I think that adds to the charm of it, though, honestly. I'm not sure how well it'll look in Blu-ray. I'm sure it's great, but I don't know. So he was asked, how did you come up with the idea? Because it's a crazy concept. You obviously couldn't play it as an actual monster because it wasn't that good of an animatronic beast. And I had to work with what was available, so that was the concept I came up with. The casting was interesting because we had two young cast members in Paul Walker and Denise Richards. It was Paul's first film, and he is so adorable and friendly. He was 17 years old and had the most amazing smile. Denise hadn't done anything either. At the end, when we did that sexy dance scene, she was so nervous as she was almost virginal, and then she ended up marrying Charlie Sheen. It's funny what happens.
Oh, God. Yeah. I'm sure she guffaws about Charlie Sheen and her relationship daily.
Yeah, exactly. And however, I mean, Denise Richards might have been virginal in this movie, but this came out in 1994, and not 4 years later, there was a movie she was in that I'm sure all boys of a certain age saw at least certain scenes of over and over again, a little movie called Wild Things.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I haven't even seen that full movie. I'm not even going to lie about it, but I've seen certain scenes several hundred times.
I've seen the movie. I can't tell you what it's about.
No.
Can't even tell you who else is in it except for Nev Campbell and Denise Richards.
Kevin Bacon.
Well, Kevin Bacon's in fucking everything.
Well, 6 Degrees, you know. And actually, when she did this movie, she's only 5 years removed from being a Bond girl. So, I mean, careers can take off, huh?
Hollywood's a weird place, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only that, but Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite is in the movie as a pizza boy. I mean, it's full of stars.
We get a actual walking, talking, living, breathing Barry. Or what was it? Weekend at Barney's or Barry's or
Weekend at Bernie's.
Bernie's.
Bernie's. Weekend at Barry's.
Yeah.
Close enough. Don't worry. Weekend at Bernie's is going to be covered on this show at some point because I'm fascinated by the fact that somebody thought that was a great idea.
So how do you describe this movie?
If it was an MTV special, it would be True Life, My Boyfriend's a T-Rex. I think that's what it would be called. It belongs to that weird genre of movies. I don't think it's an official genre of movies, but it should be. It's called My Boyfriend Came Back from the Dead genre. Because true love can never die, you see? Especially if you're a teen, that's the truest love one can ever experience. I mean, you know that, Tomko, because you married your high school sweetheart, right?
I did indeed.
And you died twice and came back from the dead, so you definitely belong.
Well, in all fairness, she died 3 times. You know, I owe her one.
You know what? It's not a competition.
Tell her that.
Just because you're married, you don't always have to let her win, you know?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
You've never been married. You don't know.
Yeah, because I'm the smart one.
And speaking of my wife, last couple times we talked, I mentioned how my wife was so pissed off at the movies that I was making her watch for this show.
Yes.
I am so glad I watched this while she was at work because chances are I would be bunking down at the pod shack because of this movie. Probably.
I think we should have a segment on the show called Mrs. Tomko gives a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And you told her the concept for this movie. You told her about it, and she did not approve, did she?
I showed her the goddamn poster, and she just, I texted her when she was asking me what I was doing, and she just says, why?
Oh.
So, but still, I mean, the thing I'm trying to figure out is who is this movie aimed at? Because the concept is very kid-friendly, but you also have blowjob jokes.
It's almost like they wanted it to be a teen movie, but the idea is so stupid that it couldn't possibly be a teen movie. Yet you have a giant, ridiculous-looking T-Rex. That'll appeal to kids, but then you've got, like, dick jokes.
Yeah, you have, like, flat-out murders left and right.
Murders, yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the T-Rex goes on a rampage, and we should inform the people of what the T-Rex actually is, because... So the movie starts with Tammy, played by Denise Richards, the lovely Denise Richards. She's interested in Michael, who's Paul Walker, and who loves to wear shirts that exposes his tum-tum, which is silly. But Michael is kind of afraid for Tammy's safety because, of course, she got mixed up in the wrong crowd, as they do. That's one of the hallmarks of the boyfriend comes back from the dead genre. Like, usually the girl gets mixed up with the bad boy, and the bad boy always has some healthy, unhealthy obsession with the sweet girl, and they're usually wearing leather-studded jackets and have these violent tendencies and have a gang surrounded them. Like I saw a movie recently called The Wraith, starring Charlie Sheen, and it is awful, and it is from the 80s, but it concerns a guy that is in love with this girl, and there's a street tough with an unhealthy obsession with the girl. So the guy gets murdered. He comes back from the dead looking like Charlie Sheen. Like, yeah. This is young Charlie Sheen, though. This is from the 80s, so this was prime Charlie Sheen. And Charlie Sheen dresses up like a Power Ranger and drives a weird car and challenges all the street toughs to street races. And he ends all the races, even if he's losing, by stopping in the middle of the road so that they bash into the car and then their cars explode and they turn into zombies, basically. It's a really weird movie. You should watch it. Anyways, so Tammy has a similar thing going on with a bad boy, and he catches her talking to Michael, and a fight breaks out with like a clothesline and some elbow drops.
Yes, possibly the best schoolyard fight scene ever.
I mean, he flat out gave some wrestling elbow drops. It was pretty
Randy
amazing.
Savage would have been proud.
So proud. And the police finally show up, and when the fight was at a stalemate because both boys were grabbing each other's nuts, the officer says, "What we have here is one of them testicular standoffs." That's the level of quality of writing you're getting in this movie, folks. That's what you're getting.
And out of curiosity, did you recognize one of those cops?
I didn't. Should I have?
Yes, he was the homeless person in Back to the Future.
Oh my God.
And coincidentally enough, one of the homeless people in They Live.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
This is a step up for him.
Well, yeah, he got, I want to say, like 5 lines in this movie.
Do you know this gentleman's name?
Bud something or other.
Ah, man. That's a pretty keen eye there. See, I never pick up on those. There's a lot of people that can pick up on like random people, like, oh, he was the cop in Murder, She Wrote. I'm like, well, how did you even pay attention to that ever?
Okay, I was off. His name is George Buck Flower.
That's a name.
That is a hell of a name. Buck Flower.
Well, Michael gets the best of this fight because while the bully is writhing on the ground in pain, Michael stands tall because he was wearing a cup the whole time. Haha, that clever bastard.
Who the hell does that?
You just randomly wear a cup all over the place. I don't know if that was trying to hide his boner for Denise Richards there or what, but he had that cup on.
Hey, it paid off this time.
Yeah, it paid off. So the scene cuts then, and we go to old Bernie himself. I gotta look up his name because it's stupid. Dr. Wackenheimer or something like that. Wackenstein. Thank you, sir. Dr. Wackenstein. Ugh. And he is yelling at his prized robot T-Rex because he is building robot bodies to put brains into to live forever in immortality. Why he didn't just build a humanoid-looking body to live in for all time, and why he chose a T-Rex instead? That's a good question. Doesn't make sense, but okay.
Well, I mean, I sent you a text yesterday saying I just finished the movie, and you sent one back to me. You're like, okay, what are your thoughts? I'm like, all I can ask is what and why.
Right.
Like, why did he go with the dinosaur? Why didn't he go with something a little bit easier to handle? You know, maybe even just a car.
Yeah, put your mind in a car. How about that?
Exactly. You know, something sensible, good gas mileage, you know. But, I mean, they never explained the how either. How does this work? Because during this scene, you can clearly see the dinosaur is on a pallet with all kinds of cables coming from it, implying that without those cables, there wouldn't be any power, let alone movement. How does the brain give the electricity to the dinosaur? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's funny because later in the movie, when they're trying to find a replacement body to put the brain back in, I'm like, who the fuck is going to do that? You're Denise Richards and her gay best friend. You don't know brain surgery. You don't know how to put the brain. If you find a suitable body, how are you going to put that brain back in? What do you do then?
Yeah, well, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
I have thoughts on that scene.
Okay. Well, Tomko's exact text to me was, I just got done with Tammy and the T-Rex. God damn, sir. God damn, sir. Yeah, that's perfect. So we flip back to Tammy calling Michael late at night, and basically a booty call. And Michael's just like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna get all the sex with that Denise Richards there," and so he can barely see straight, and his voice is going all high pitched. That means he's real excited. So he runs over to Tammy's house, climbs up the trellis to her room, and a couple of classmates see him climbing into her bedroom window above her parents' garage, and they tattle on him and call Billy the street tough from before. They make out, of course, in the room, and suddenly they're in love because that's all it takes. It's just
Another odd detail in this scene was during the middle of the makeout session where he's trying to be super quiet and literally throwing her furniture around.
right.
The phone in her room begins to ring, and it's her father.
Yeah.
Who's downstairs. What?
Didn't your parents ever call you on your house phone from another room when you were younger? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, instead of walking 3 steps up the stairs to be like, "Are you okay? Like, are you passed out or unconscious on the floor?"
Yeah, or what's that noise coming from your room?
Yeah, just call the phone instead.
Yeah, that's okay movie.
Yeah. So they kiss, and suddenly they're in love, and I know this because they say "I love you" to each other. Like, what? That's all it takes is one kiss, and all of a sudden you're hard eyes, and that's
it. It was 1994. It was a simpler time.
I guess so. They didn't realize that that's not how love worked. You kissed once, and then that's it. Well, I guess we're married now. Are you pregnant? So, of course, Billy and his posse shows up to Tammy's house, and the parents basically just let this fucking thug.
The father's like, "Oh my God, it's Billy.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll take care of this." He just opens the door for them, and they all just pour in.
Yeah, I know. Like, if that was my daughter, I'd have, and she was being harassed by this guy, I'd have a shotgun on the front porch.
At least a baseball bat, dude.
Something. Not be like, "I'll take care of this," and then just kind of do nothing about it. Let them storm in. Let them go up to your daughter's room and do Lord knows what to your daughter as you don't even check up on her or anything. They just stay downstairs. Yeah, it was really weird. So the posse shows up. Michael tries to run real fast and beat a speeding car because that always works. And they catch up to him, beat him up, shove him in Billy's trunk, and
They practically brain him with a crowbar and a baseball bat. And
yeah.
he just has like a bloody lip from it.
Well, you know.
That's Paul Walker. Come on.
He's wearing a cup on his head, don't you know? So they decide that the best thing they could possibly do with this kid is toss him into a wildlife preserve where apparently all the big cats are allowed to run freely. And this is a place where anyone can visit, I guess. It's like a zoo. However, the tigers and stuff don't have cages. They're just there.
They did have one of the oddest lines I've ever seen in a movie where Billy has Paul Walker down on the ground and he's trying to be tough and intimidating. And he just says, "What would you do if you could do anything?" What? But apparently the answer to that question is feed Paul Walker to the lions.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's acceptable.
Yeah. And it's a similar line to that. On the way to the wildlife preserve or wherever, one of the henchmen is like, "How far are you going to go, boss?" And Billy goes, "I'm going all the way." What? Are you going to rape poor Michael? What does that even mean? You're going all the way, you freak. So they drop off Paul Walker, and he promptly gets his ass mauled by a lion until a park ranger kind of scares off the lion somehow, and they call an ambulance, and Michael's in a coma in the hospital, and everybody's real sad about that.
And not a mark on him.
Not a mark on him. I don't know why he's even in a coma, because you would think he'd just get a lot of scratches and stuff, or maybe an arm bitten off. I don't know how that causes a coma, but he's in a coma.
Yeah, and then the doctor, Dr. Wackenstein, shows up out of nowhere because he needs a brain.
He
And
needs
he
a
just
brain.
happens to know that Michael's in a coma.
Didn't he have somebody working at the hospital? He had somebody working at the hospital that called him and was like, "Hey, we got a candidate," like one of the nurses or doctors or something.
I didn't catch that. I just saw him kind of try to oddly talk his way past the receptionist.
Oh, he did do that too, but with his sexy nurse Helga, who is in the most ridiculous non-nurse uniform you could possibly be in.
Yeah.
So they learned that Michael's been comatose for 15 hours, and his only living relative is drunk Uncle Bob, who's just 5 sheets to the wind, maybe 8, sitting in the next to his bed with an open container of alcohol, which I'm sure is allowed in any hospital. You can just drink whatever you want and not even a thing. So Tammy shows up and Byron shows up, which is her gay best friend, who's also black and who also has to dress up in all African attire because it was the 90s. And that's how you differentiate cultures, as you just, despite the fact that he didn't appear to be from Africa, considering his dad was decidedly American and also the police chief. So, whatever.
Police captain.
Oh, sorry.
And the cop's name was Captain Black.
I didn't even. So the kid's name was Byron Black?
Yes.
Oh my God. Cool movie. Cool. I didn't even catch that.
So cringy.
Yeah, that's bad. That's really bad. So Dr. Wackenstein and Nurse Helga convinced everybody in the room that Michael died. Basically, they pulled the plug on the machine so it flatlined. Oldest trick in the book.
Wackenstein is straddling him, just kind of, beating his chest while the nurse is breathing into his mouth. And after like 10 seconds, oh, well, I did everything good. He's dead.
Yeah. Yep. So he's going to take Michael back to his little office. And Michael promptly wakes up from the coma once he's outside the hospital. Just he wakes up. He pops up. He's like, "Oh, what's going on?" Like, you idiot. Would you need some fresh air or something? That was it?
I can't remember. Did they explain to Michael what was going on, or did they just knock him right out and then start with the jigsaw?
They knocked him out. I think the nurse just clocked him over the head or something, and then they took him to the laboratory and cut his head open and stole his brain.
With a jigsaw, not even like a surgical saw.
No, with a jigsaw, stole his brain, which they are going to use on the T-Rex to prove that the thing works. Now, they think that the brain is not going to have any emotion or anything. It's just going to be a functional brain, basically like a battery, and they can remote control it, I guess, is the thing.
Okay, so they did explain that.
I
wasn't sure if they actually put the brain in the dinosaur or if they just hooked it up with wires.
I think, yeah, they put the brain in the dinosaur, I thought, because it's not exposed outside anywhere.
Then what was the point of kind of putting all those probes into the brain that had the wires coming out of them?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I assumed just because, I don't know why I assumed that, because they don't show
They don't show the procedure at all.
No, not at all. They do hook up wires to the brain, and he's like, "Oh, activity." But they never show him putting the brain in the T-Rex. And in fact, I think they do just leave the brain hooked up to the wires, don't they? And
I don't know.
Oh, damn it. You plot holes are going to kill us, Tammy, and the T-Rex. You had an Oscar-worthy screenplay, and these plot holes are really just bleeding through right now, damn it. Michael T-Rex eventually wakes up from the coma, and he was supposed to be out forever. This is twice in one day he's woken up from a coma, so he's got to be some kind of minded Superman there. Like, his brain is made of sturdy stuff. Obviously, it's the most awesome brain because he walks around with a cup all the time. He's always thinking, this guy. So he wakes up for the second time and sees his body with the half his head missing. And he's like, oh my God, what's going on? And he realizes he's in a T-Rex body. And the bodyguard that, this big bodyguard that Dr. Wackenstein has, he just kind of...
Complete with like a tank top that's like 4 sizes too small, by the way.
Absolutely. That's how you know he's a bodyguard. Because he wears the smallest clothes imaginable. And the T-Rex basically turns him into a fruit roll-up. Just stomps on him. And then Michael decides that he needs to use a payphone as a T-Rex. And he calls Tammy and just basically roars into the phone, which is not how
you're skipping over the best special effect this side of Avatar. And that's the T-Rex arms.
Oh, the T-Rex arms. Yeah. Well, you ask yourself, well, how does a T-Rex use a phone? With his tiny T-Rex arms, obviously. And how do you do that on a low-budget movie? You have a man wearing a rubber T-Rex glove off to the side, like not even in line with where the arm would be on the T-Rex as it stands there, just up from underneath the camera, just grabbing that. Yeah, that was very distracting the whole time.
You know, not to throw this kind of criticism at a movie called Tammy and the T-Rex, it did not make any anatomical sense because they show the length of the T-Rex's arms in the wide shots, and these are like way, way, way too long for that.
Yeah, everybody knows that T-Rexes have those little stunted arms. That's the cutest thing.
That's why they were so mad.
Yeah, that's why they're so angry. Because if you put your hand on their forehead, they would just swing away and they could never reach you. After that, T-Rex Michael decides to go on a rampage. He decides to crash a party. You ever see a T-Rex crash a party? It's quite the scene, man.
What's more likely? A T-Rex crashing a party or a young lady who just watched her boyfriend die go to a kegger that same night?
I mean, obviously, that's the only way you can cope, right? Get shit-faced. Maybe find a new Michael. I don't know how you do that. After all, you kissed already, so you're in love. I don't know how you ever get over that, but so yeah.
And then Billy and the bullies come crashing the party.
There they are. And I feel like this is when the gore cut of Tammy and the T-Rex would really come in handy because Michael sees all the thugs and he murders them all, basically, including grabbing Billy by the head. And then you don't even really see what happens. And I kind of want to see the bully get his head eaten or whatever.
Oh, I've seen the deleted scenes on YouTube. There's nothing to really write home about.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Yeah, I think I just saved you $36, sir.
Well, yeah. Once it's down to 10, it's mine.
But yeah, Michael and Tammy finally get together, and they spend, 5 minutes of the movie playing charades?
Yeah. How do they hook up? I don't even remember. I do remember.
I can't remember. No, because at one point, doesn't the dinosaur corner Byron? Byron's thinking it's his turn to die, and he just picks him up with the arm's length
and dusts him off.
And dusts him off.
Yes. Yeah. And then the next day, the T-Rex, Michael T-Rex, shows up outside her window. That's
like you do when you're a dinosaur.
Like you do when you're a dinosaur. Be like a peeping T-Rex. You got to peek on what's going on in there. Hey, girl, what's happening there? Just having feelings and emotions about your dead boyfriend that you love so much? Well, I thought the alcohol was supposed to wash that away. Never fear, here I am. I'm just in a T-Rex body is all. No big deal. So Tammy's sitting there in her room, and her mirror starts shaking, sort of like the water effect in Jurassic Park.
And by sort of like, you mean directly ripped off from?
Yeah, because Jurassic Park came out the year before, and if you have a movie with a dinosaur, you got to rip off the best, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you'd be doing yourself a huge disservice if you didn't. T-Rex somehow, and this is very unclear, gets Tammy out of the room. I don't know how she goes with him or whether he grabs her.
I can't remember. Is this when she figured out what was going on by that point?
No, he takes her to a barn first, But I don't remember how she got out of the room. I just know that instead of calling her on the phone, Mom and Dad actually went up there this time to see what the ruckus was. I guess they learned from their past mistakes. But when they got up there, she was gone, and I don't know how. So they go back to the barn, and that's when they start playing charades. Because at the beginning of the movie, Michael did this cute little thing, like the cutest, where he gave her a flower, and she's like, oh, I can't accept that. And then he ate the flower. Well, that fucking dinosaur did the same goddamn thing.
And she's very accepting of this whole thing.
Well, of course, because the dinosaur also pointed to a necklace that he gave her. So, obviously, Michael, it's gotta be you. It's gotta be, right?
If I saw a walking, talking dinosaur, I think I would be too busy shitting myself to put 2 and 2 together that it's Randy's brain inside of there.
Well, it would depend on how much snark the T-Rex had. If it's
Yeah,
openly sarcastic, then you know it's probably me. Okay, here's the clue.
God damn it, now I wanted a show called Tommy and the T-Rex.
All right. Okay, Tom, go. Here's the deal. If I ever find my brain inside a T-Rex body, I will search you out and I will brush off your shoulders just like Michael did to Byron, and then you'll know.
Randy?
Yeah. And I'll go roar. And then it's up to you to figure out how to fix this wacky situation.
All right, so now can we talk about the morgue scene?
We can absolutely talk about the morgue scene because now Byron is in on the deal, and Byron is like, I knew something was up with that T-Rex. I thought it loved me or something. So
yeah, somehow Michael communicates to Tammy that he needs a new body because they go to his funeral. I don't know how, when, where, or why, but Dr. Wackenstein drops Michael's body off, and it's already badly decomposed.
That was my favorite part of the movie. I actually laughed out loud because it was so unexpected. Because they went to Michael's funeral to steal his body so that they can put the brain from the T-Rex back into his old body. And when they open up the casket, his body's decomposing, and there's maggots crawling in it and rats all over it. I laughed so fucking hard because I did not expect that whatsoever.
Oh, and Michael is also at the funeral, and when drunk Uncle Bob gives the eulogy, the mechanical T-Rex is fucking crying tears.
Yes. It's a robot. It can't technically do that. I mean, but yeah, tears.
But yeah, they decide they need to get a fresh body. What better solution than to go to a morgue and steal a human body?
And so basically they promise Michael to find him a new body at the morgue, steal it so that the loved ones of the deceased can never have full closure. Like, where did the bodies go?
And Michael's a big enough dick to like give the thumbs down as far as which bodies he wants. Oh, I can't, and they're implying that he's not taking this one because the body's Asian.
Yeah.
He's not taking this one because the body's African American. It's like, beggars can't be choosers, asshole.
And I think Denise Richards gives her best line delivery in the entire movie in this scene when Byron pulls one out, a body, and pulls the cover aside, and they stare at his dick. And Byron goes, "Oh, he's perfect." And
not for me.
Yeah, not to me, he isn't. And just the line delivery and everything was perfect on that. I'm like, oh, you sassy girl. And then I'm like, well, what does his dick look like then if he's perfect for, like, what the hell? I don't know what that means, but it was funny.
So where are we at? Where are we now? I have to be honest with you. This movie is just like one big jumbled ball of what the fuck in my head.
So after that, Dr. Wackenstein shows up. So the entire time, the T-Rex is in the back of this big truck that Denise Richards, Tammy, and Byron stole. And he's in the back of this truck, and Dr. Wackenstein shows up, and they try to steal the dinosaur, and that doesn't happen.
In broad daylight, there's a dinosaur riding in the back of a truck, and nobody in the town thinks twice.
Doing a Siskel and Ebert in the back, thumbs up, thumbs down, with morgue bodies being held outside the window. Like, They didn't raise an eyebrow anywhere along the way to anybody? Nobody thought any differently? It's a blur to me what happened after that point. I think at some point, well, I know what happens. It's the most impressive scene in the movie. Tammy actually rides the T-Rex, which is great.
Yeah, and especially because you could tell that they just kind of hooked the T-Rex up to a trailer, because on the close-up shots of Denise Richards, it's just like one smooth motion past the trees. But when they pull back far away, you see this like shitty, not even claymation, like mock-up of it, where it's just kind of bouncing up and down.
Yeah, I know. It's great. Eventually, they end up back at they hide out at the barn that they had been before, where Michael and Tammy, Tammy found out Michael was in the T-Rex, and they basically, I don't know if she's boning the T-Rex or what. But
Yeah, because Byron asks, to come in, and she's like, hold on a second, I'm not decent.
yeah, I know. It's very weird.
Did she fuck the dinosaur?
She might have fucked that dinosaur. She was riding
you know what?
She was riding.
If nothing else, it's a story.
Yeah.
She's got a story now.
Right. She was riding the T-Rex before, and then she was really riding that T-Rex. So Byron shows up, and the cops followed Byron to the barn, and then there's a big standoff, and
out of nowhere, they just shoot the dinosaur.
Yeah, he kills the doctor, and in a very heartbreaking scene, they gun down the robot dinosaur, and Tammy is very upset by this, but somehow she convinces Lord knows who that Michael's brain was in the T-Rex, and they managed to save his brain.
Again, how?
I don't know. And how do you properly communicate that your deceased boyfriend's brain was in this T-Rex? And also, isn't he a criminal at this point? Because he murdered several dozen people at this point.
Yeah.
He straight up killed a bunch of people. So can't you arrest that brain? But no, they don't arrest the brain. They put him in Denise Richards, Tammy's room, and her parents are all right with this. Her boyfriend living with her in her room, and she's doing sexy dances for the brain because somehow they wired up a camera to the brain so that the brain can see her
and talk to her.
And talk to her. Technology, it was amazing in 1994. Apparently, we've devolved since then, but in 1994 we could do some shit. So Denise Richards is doing a sexy dance in her lingerie. Hey girl, hey. And Michael gets a brain boner and sparks fly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Basically, one of the final shots of this movie is a detached human brain orgasming.
Yeah. It climaxed all over the place, this brain. You're going to blow that brain up with your hot ass there, Tammy. Jeez, slow it down a bit. And that's Tammy and the T-Rex. And I loved it. I don't know what it was about this movie. I didn't expect much, and it caught me by surprise by how entertaining it was. I think that's the right word. I think it's entertaining.
Oh, I wasn't bored.
Yeah, it's definitely ridiculous and definitely bad, but it's definitely entertaining as well, and that was great.
It was fun. I want to recommend it, but I don't know who I'd recommend it to.
Well,
without being judged harshly.
I recommended it to the girl I'm currently seeing. She's a fan of bad movies, and I'm like, hey, watch this. And she loved it too.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, apparently we're in love now and we have to get married. It's basically like the kiss, and then they were in love in Tammy's room. So obviously we're going to be married because of Tammy and the T-Rex. It's all because of Tammy and the T-Rex. So if whatever company, that's Vinegar Syndrome, I think they're called, are putting out the Blu-ray of Tammy and the T-Rex, if you guys want to send me a Gore cut for love, then for free,
Hey, we're giving you a free plug.
We're giving you a free plug. I don't know, we'll have a Tammy and the T-Rex wedding too, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Oh, God, I can't wait to see the bridesmaids dresses.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll dress up like the T-Rex, and I don't know, it'll be, all the bridesmaids will be in the Tammy
The ring
lingerie.
bearer and the flower girl will be dressed in eggshells.
Yeah. And all the in-laws will be walking on eggshells saying, what is going on here?
My initial thought on this movie was, you know how this past Halloween there was all the paranoia about there being weed infused candies handed out in trick or treats.
Sure. Yeah, that's the new
Razor
scare.
blade in the apple, yeah.
Yeah. Which, by the way, has never happened in the history of Halloween candy, but that's another story.
I can't help but wonder if this movie is the result of some 5th or 6th grader getting one of those edibles, and this is what he wrote down. That's the only way this makes sense.
Well, I mean, Stuart Ratliff? Yeah.
Probably did more drugs than Aleister Crowley, apparently.
Stuart Raffle. Yeah, I mean, he wrote it in a week, so, it's you can check in the archives. Me and Tommy talked about on our first episode, No Holds Barred, and Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon wrote that son of a bitch in a weekend, held up in a hotel, just Hulk and Vince. You can't tell me they were just drinking Pepsi.
Oh, those poor housekeepers.
Yeah, right. Oh, boy. So I did manage to find an interview with Paul Walker where he actually talks about Tammy and the T-Rex. I couldn't believe it.
Really?
This was on IGN in 2001, so it's an old article. From what I gather, the interviewer was following Paul Walker around for like a day or two, and they were promoting, it might have been the first Fast and Furious movie. Someone else can check the timeline, but it was one of the first ones anyways. And they're going to like old video stores and stuff. And so this is what's said. The interviewer was talking about VHS copies of Paul Walker's movies, indie movies that Paul Walker did. And Paul Walker's searching through the indie movies that the interviewer has. And he goes, what? No Tammy and the T-Rex? Where's that one? Then Paul Walker says, Denise Richards, what? Denise Richards, what? So the interviewer asked him about Tammy and the T-Rex, and he said, it was cool shit. What was I doing then? I mean, I don't think I was doing anything. I think I was smoking herb. You probably shouldn't print that, he laughs. Nah, seriously, just kind of came about. It was one of those things where I was approached by these guys, and they were like, yeah, we want to do a movie basically for under $1 million. And so I did it. I mean, that's the most Paul Walker quote ever, right?
Yeah.
And then,
at least I gotta give him credit. He owned it.
He did.
It's not like Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey, where they completely stayed away and disowned that Texas Chainsaw movie. Both he and Denise Richards have no problem with this being out there.
No. And by the way, actors, you're not above the shit you did. Johnny Depp was in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Kevin Bacon was in Friday the 13th. Paul Rudd was in some shitty Halloween movie I saw the other day, 5 or 6, whatever, who cares? Like, everybody starts off in some, I don't know, dodgy material. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're going to act like you're bigger than that, that's kind of a dick move, because it's insulting to the people who are currently in those movies or have been in those movies before you.
Yeah, later on in the interview, he talks about Tammy and the T-Rex again. He said, and Tammy and the T-Rex, I laugh because everyone is like, what? You worked with Denise Richards? And I'm like, yeah, what's up?
Like, you wouldn't?
Yeah. Like, I would be in the same room with Denise Richards. She's gorgeous.
Absolutely.
But I also read a little hot goss that maybe they after that movie they hooked up. Like, did they date in real life? Did Tammy really date that T-Rex? Oh, scandalous.
Ooh.
Yeah, I only found one article because honestly, even finding any information about Tammy and the T-Rex is
near impossible.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot written about it. So I don't know. As for me, I would definitely recommend this movie if you love bad movies and enjoy it, having a good time. Maybe drink a couple beers beforehand.
I was going to say, this is one of those perfect movies. I think I described it on an earlier episode where you get home from the bar, you've got your friends, You got a 12-pack to split among 4 guys. What better way to, spend the evening than killing that thing while watching Tammy and the T-Rex?
Perfect movie for that.
It really is.
I think that perfectly sums up this episode. I don't think we have anything more to say except for you can find me at mretailslave on the Twitters. Mr. Tom Cohen, where can they find you?
You can find me on the Twitters at The Drunken Dork. It is in support of my show, Jake and Tom Conquer the World. I'm thinking by the time this episode's out, I will have at least one episode out there. I've got 4 of them banked up, ready to go. If you want to reach out to me on Facebook, you can also find me at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group.
Sounds good. In the meantime, if you get bored, you can check out my big dumb comedy show with Tommy called Miserable Retail Slave. Please do that. And if you like what you hear, suggest to everyone you know, all the fellow movie lovers, to listen, please. We need more listeners. The more listeners, the more we can do listener
and definitely send in your suggestions.
Absolutely. That would be a lot of fun. Send in your bad movie recommendations and tell us why it's your favorite, and we'll decide whether or not we agree with you or not.
All right.
All right. We'll see you next time.
See ya.